The Grand Hall of Species Evaluation was a cathedral of arrogance. High Strategist Velka Tharn stood atop the observation dais, his gloved fingers drumming against the crystalline podium. Thousands of holoscreens hovered around him, displays of recent planetary surveys, bioreadouts, and cultural assessments. Each screen flickered with footage of a newly discovered species, most trembling or primitive. But one caught his attention. Terrans, he murmured, tusks twitching. Classification Prey Class Delta? A junior analyst flinched as he approached. Yes, strategist. Bipedal, low bone density, no psionic trace, minimal environmental adaptation, fractured global governance, emotional volatility. Velka scrolled through battlefield simulations, watching digital humans scatter under synthetic fire. Pathetic. No exoskeletons, no hive cohesion, no neural amplification. Their weapons rely on chemical reactions. He waved a hand, dismissing the screen. Send a collection unit. Light force. No antimatter necessary. Stun containment only. Begin planetary pacification within a cycle. The analyst hesitated. But strategist, they've begun limited stellar travel. Crude orbital stations. Some weaponry based on kinetic physics. Velka didn't even turn. Insects build nests too. Do we negotiate with ants? 200 million kilometers away, the Montana training range was still iced over, even in April. The wind swept across the frozen hills like a hungry ghost, biting through combat jackets and carrying the scent of burnt ozone from railgun drills. Captain Jenna Rourke watched her team recalibrate a jerry-rigged orbital defense turret welded out of scrap and SpaceX cargo shells. She squinted at the horizon, where clouds clung to the peaks like bruises. She lit a cigarette with fingers that didn't shake anymore. Wind's picking up. Sergeant McAllister grunted, hauling another fusion core into place. Radar's twitchy. Picking up some weird sky trash coming in from high orbit. Could be solar debris. Or not, Jenna said, staring at the telemetry blinking on her portable HUD. Her fingers danced over controls, isolating a signal, repeating, rhythmic alien. That's not space junk. That's intention. She pulled the feed onto the big screen, strange glyphs pulsing like a heartbeat. The message was decoded seconds later by her implant. To the denizens of Sol 3, prepare for subjugation and relocation. Resistance will be considered primitive defiance, and will be met with correctional force. You will not be harmed unless inefficient. Jenna didn't flinch. She pulled the cigarette from her mouth and ground it beneath her boot. They think we're inefficient. By midnight, the emergency session of the Earth Coalition was in chaos. Heads of state argued in secure virtual bunkers. Some wanted diplomacy. Others surrender. A few called it a hoax. Only the U.S. Transmission Security Channel remained calm. Jenna, patched into the command net, stared at the live feed from Earth's orbital satellites. 6 ships, sleek, curved, no visible engines, slipped into geosynchronous orbit. They began deploying drop pods. No response to communication attempts. No return channel. Just silence and motion. She keyed into the private channel with General Rios. They're not here to talk, she said. They're already on the ground. Near Texas, Idaho, Wyoming. They're avoiding cities. Why rural? To grab without noise. Herding cattle. There was a pause. Permission to engage, Captain? Wasn't waiting for it. At 3 o'clock hours, Velkatha's personal strike force entered Earth's atmosphere. Drone scouts reported minor interference. Electromagnetic anomalies, patchy terrain resistance, local wildlife interference. No formal military response. No central mobilization. Perfect. As his command vessel hovered above Earth's magnetic equator, Velka sipped fermented gill wine and watched as his Psi hunters marched down into the snow-covered lands below. They never made it to their targets. The moment the first pod doors hissed open, the silence shattered. Buried beneath the snowline, humans rose from camouflaged positions. Railguns hidden in grain silos ripped through alien armor like paper. Hunter drones dropped from the sky, releasing high-frequency jammers that scrambled the site communication networks. Within minutes, 2 squads were gone, completely wiped from tracking. Jenna crouched behind the edge of a barn, watching through thermoscopes. "They're fast," she whispered to her squad. "But dumb. They group too tight." McAllister smirked. "Clusters a party." The trap was sprung. Homemade pulse bombs, designed to mimic predator shrieks, sent the alien vanguard into disarray. Their formation broke. Jenna's team picked them off one by one. The field, once pristine with snow, steamed with heat and the acrid scent of ionized blood. Velkatha's amusement turned to confusion, then rage. How did they intercept our psionics? They have no resonance." "No psionics, sir," the analyst stammered. "But audio counter patterns, old Earth music. They're jamming us with something called—" He paused, horrified. "Country radio." Velkatha's cup shattered in his grip. Jenna watched the last alien flee into the treeline, only to trip a buried magnetic snare. His body spasmed and went still. "That's the last one," McAllister confirmed. "No survivors." "Don't bet on it," Jenna muttered. She stared at the sky. "They'll send more. They always do." She tapped her wrist display and began recording. "This is Captain Jenna Rourke, United Earth Defense. First contact was hostile. Repeat, hostile. Estimated enemy intention, forced relocation or extermination. We are initiating countermeasures. No one's surrendering. And if they think we're prey, they picked the wrong planet." She stopped recording, uploaded the file to the secure beacon, and whispered under her breath, "Let's see how the hunters like being hunted." Velka Tharn didn't blink as the casualty report updated. 38 ground troops vanished. No visual logs. No biosigns. No distress signals. Just red dots fading from the tactical map. "Impossible," he said. The silence that followed only confirmed his suspicion. Somewhere down on that blue world, something had gone very wrong. He turned to his second-in-command, a tall, reptilian hybrid with scanning implants wired into its skull. "What weaponry?" "Unclear. Crude electromagnetics. Homemade. Possibly kinetic-based. Crude doesn't erase troops." The hybrid blinked, processing. "Neither does arrogance," Velkath muttered. On Earth, Jenna crouched beside a dead Psi hunter, its silver carapace half crushed by a hydraulic claw repurposed from a combine harvester. She nudged its limb with the barrel of her rifle. "No shielding," she noted. "Bet they thought intimidation was armor. Idiots came down with sticks and shine," McAllister replied, kicking snow over another corpse. "Didn't even scan for infrared traps. These guys weren't ready for ranch tech." Jenna tapped her wrist pad. 10 confirmed kills in Zone 3. Minimal human casualties. Drones reporting movement southwest, likely regrouping. She looked up at the stars, eyes narrowing. "They'll escalate. Next round won't be scouts." Velkath was already preparing that next round. Deploy elite unit Theta. Full armor. Target leader signatures. Disable, extract, dissect. I want to know what they are. His staff shifted uncomfortably. "They've disrupted 3 more insertion points," one said. "Even the shadows report high resistance. We're encountering irregular warfare. Non-pattern strikes. Insects don't strategize." Velka snapped. "They swarm. These are improvisations. Wild reflexes. Reactionary." "Correct," the hybrid added. "Reaction with precision." Velkath paused. He didn't like that word. Jenna stood in the hangar of her mountain outpost, looking over a crude hologram built from stolen satellite data and duct-taped signal boosters. Their enemy had regrouped and was circling her position. "They're coming," she said simply. Her team had already suited up. Railguns calibrated. EMP grenades primed. Drones hovered, silent and alert. "Let them," McAllister said. "No," Jenna said. "I want to be taken." The room froze. "Come again?" "They want to study us." "Fine. Let them grab me. I'll ride their ship back, tear it apart from the inside. You keep resistance active planetside. You're nuts. Jenna gave a crooked grin. Worked on Titan, until it didn't. Time to finish what I started. That night, the forest around the outpost went still. Jenna stood in the open clearing, alone, her heat signature fully visible. No weapons. No resistance. Velkath's hunter unit landed with surgical precision. 7 elite hybrids in armor that shimmered against night vision. Jenna didn't flinch as they surrounded her. One stepped forward and placed a cold clamp against her neck. Designation, Specimen R Prime. She didn't respond. Compliance acknowledged. She smiled slightly. Sure. Take me to your genius. Inside Vortelex, the air smelled like oil and decay. Smooth black metal pulsed beneath Jenna's boots as they dragged her through corridors lined with unreadable glyphs and humming power nodes. No visible guards. Just watchers, silent, cold, observing every breath. They placed her in a containment field, a translucent dome held by magnetic anchors. A console flickered beside her, cycling scans. Across the room, behind an armored viewport, Velkath watched. She doesn't even struggle. He mused. She appears curious. His aide added. Velkath narrowed his eyes. Curiosity is a higher function. That shouldn't exist in prey. Inside the containment, Jenna sat cross-legged. She counted the rotations of the scanning arm, noting the sound each time it passed. It clicked 3 times, then paused for a half-second. Power node on the far wall blinked twice per cycle. Every third blink, a vibration, likely tied to engine fluctuation. She adjusted the ring on her finger. A flicker of light pulsed, barely perceptible. Her implant AI had synced with the ship's wireless feedback. Now it was mapping. Almost too easy, she whispered. She pulled a wire from her sleeve and slid it into the containment field emitter seam. The scanner arm stuttered. Outside, Velkath sat forward. She's tampering. She lacks tools. No. She is the tool. Jenna ducked low as the containment field pulsed. Her implant surged electricity along the ship's low-frequency grid. Lights flickered. Systems hiccuped. She bolted. Down the corridor, her AI fed a map directly to her retina. Left at the pulsar junction. Down the plasma loop hall. 3 guards, silent takedown. Her elbows shattered one's neck plate. Another fell from a repurposed plasma scalpel across the throat. She made it to the engine bay. Rows of crystalline conduits pulsed with alien energy. Time to pull teeth, she muttered. Her fingers danced across unfamiliar controls, guesswork, intuition, and sabotage. Velkath stormed into the engine control chamber moments too late. Where is she? She breached systems. Internal locks disabled. Engineering hub compromised. Seal the bridge. Too late. The door opened with a hiss. Jenna stepped in, clothes scorched, bruised and bloody, but smiling. You know, she said, walking toward him. You should have led with respect. Velkath reached for his sidearm. Jenna kicked it away, fast as lightning. Humans don't go quietly, she added. You're chaos, he hissed. No, she said. We're calculation with teeth. She raised a small device. Velkath recognized it too late, the field disruptor she'd torn from her cell. She slammed it into the floor. The ship groaned. All yours? She whispered. On Earth, the night sky lit with flashes as alien ships fell. Resistance cells from around the globe, Ukrainian hackers, Nigerian engineers, Chilean miners, and American ranchers, united in synchronized counterattack. Jenna's sabotage had triggered a system-wide cascade. Velkath's fleet fractured. One word echoed across Earth's comms. Retaliate. Jenna stood on the shattered bridge of Vortelex, overlooking Earth's curve below. Her comm crackled. Captain, we see multiple dropships retreating. She smiled, exhausted, hands still shaking. Let them run. Next time, they'll ask before they try to cage us. Jenna sat slouched in the captain's chair of the Vortelex, legs sprawled, blood drying on her knuckles. The bridge lights dimmed, flickering in the aftermath of her sabotage. Screens around her blinked between static and fractured alien glyphs. She didn't understand the language, but the damage spoke for itself. The Empire's flagship was crippled. Still in orbit, still armed, but blind, mute, and leaderless. Behind her, the once formidable Velka Tharn knelt, wrists bound with insulated cabling. His armor was scorched, and his lip bled dark purple. He glared at her with hatred that couldn't quite mask fear. "You dismantle the vessel, you don't understand," he growled. "Reckless." "No," Jenna replied, not looking at him. "Deliberate." She turned toward the comms console and slipped her implant spike into the panel. Her AI synced, broadcasting across every open frequency. In bunkers beneath Norway, war rooms in Abuja, and refugee outposts in Taiwan, Earth's leaders listened. Her voice came through crisp and clear. "This is Captain Jenna Rourke aboard enemy command vessel Vortelex. I have control. Initiating Operation Apex. All units, activate countermeasures. Time to take back our sky." On the ground, homemade launchers emerged from silos long decommissioned. Modified rockets, retrofitted with salvaged alien tech, launched from rural fields. Hackers unleashed worm viruses into orbit. Drones swarmed Empire frigates like hornets. The Terran retaliation wasn't elegant. It wasn't precise. But it was relentless. Back aboard Vortelex, Jenna locked eyes with Velkath. "You studied anatomy. Language. Atmosphere. But not mindset." Velkath straightened. "You think chaos is strength?" "No," she said. "Adaptation is?" She moved to the weapons bay. The console was alien, but fire control systems shared one universal truth: pressure and release. Her AI translated just enough. She armed the ship's point defense railguns, reoriented toward Velkath's own fleet still lingering above Earth's equator. Then she set a timer, 30 seconds. "You won't survive," Velkath said. "Not the goal." He spat. "Then what is?" "Message," she answered. "We're not prey." Far below, in a makeshift command center hidden beneath a wheat silo in Kansas, McAllister watched as Vortelex lit up the sky. Beams of white-hot energy tore through the second-tier cruisers. Fireballs bloomed like steel flowers. Empire's ships peeled off and scattered like insects burned under a lens. "Damn," he whispered. She actually did it. Jenna's pulse slowed as the seconds ticked down. She backed away from the console, eyes on the stars. Her fingers grazed a panel behind the captain's seat. One last trick. The escape capsule. She yanked the release lever. Nothing happened. "Of course," she muttered. Power was failing across the grid. Auxiliary systems weren't responding. Backup was flickering but still alive. Velkath watched her struggle, amusement creeping in. "Even apex predators die when they overreach." She didn't respond. She just pulled out the last charge in her belt, a shock drive explosive. "Let's make it hurt." She jammed it into the weapon core's housing and kicked it once to lock it in. Velkath's amusement vanished. "You'll destroy both of us." "Not yet," Jenna said, then activated the emergency beacon embedded in her wrist. In high orbit, one of Earth's stealth transport shuttles received the ping. Lieutenant Ramos responded immediately. "Beacon acquired. Locking onto Vortelex. Move!" The ship spun, engines flaring, diving toward the damaged Imperial vessel. Its outer hull split open like a wound to let the capsule extraction claw out. Inside, Jenna climbed into the pod manually, pulling the door shut just as the explosive timer hit 5. The Vortelex cracked in half. Silent in the void, a blossom of fire burst outward, catching the fleeing Empire ships in the blast wave. Shards of its armor burned as they skipped through the upper atmosphere. Jenna's escape pod tumbled through the debris, inertial dampeners struggling to keep up. Her comm buzzed. "Captain Rourke, this is Falcon 9. We've got visual. Bringing you home." She exhaled slowly, then passed out. Hours later, she awoke in a field hospital. McAllister was there, battered, smiling. "You missed the party," he said. "I was the party." They both laughed, and she winced from the broken ribs. "Status?" she asked. "Empire's bleeding. Their orbitals are gone or retreating. Ground units haven't had comms in hours. We're sweeping up the stragglers." She looked up at the tent ceiling. "We made a statement." McAllister nodded. Whole galaxy heard it. Across the stars, the Galactic Council received a data packet. It included footage from Jenna's bridge confrontation with Velkoth, the coordinated Earth counterstrike, and one final message. "You came here thinking we'd bow. Instead, we broke your pride. Reclassify Earth. Not as prey. Not as primitive. But as Apex Class Omega. Next time, knock." The council chamber was silent. Dozens of species stared at the message, then at each other. Some nodded quietly. Others left the chamber, without a word. Rebellions would start that day. Not on Earth, but far beyond it. Velkoth's escape pod drifted alone in space, intercepted days later by a scavenger crew from a neutral system. He was alive, but broken. He said nothing. He simply watched footage of Earth's retaliation on loop, over and over, trying to make sense of it. There was no logic. No predictability. No pattern. Only willpower. And blood. Jenna stood before the wreckage of the Vortelex, now half buried in a desert crater. The site had become a rallying point for the newly formed United Planetary Defense Alliance. Representatives from 30 nations and 4 alien rebel colonies stood behind her. She said nothing for a long time. Then, "Don't underestimate us again." The Galactic Council Hall, once a monument to order and certainty, felt different now. On the central spire platform, Supreme Archivist Valak tapped his claws nervously against the obsidian railing as the transmission replayed, again. "You came here thinking we'd bow. Instead, we broke your pride. Reclassify Earth. Not as prey. Not as primitive. But as Apex Class Omega. Next time, knock." The chamber was packed. Delegates from over 400 species leaned forward in silence. A few were openly stunned. Others were trying to hide the flicker of something unfamiliar. Hope. Valak cleared his throat. "It is now confirmed. Fleet Theta Prime, under strategist Velkoth Tharn, has been neutralized. The Terran vessel Vortelex was destroyed by internal sabotage. Terran command structure remains intact. Multiple losses reported on our side. Complete orbital retreat executed." A delegate from the Siveran Confederacy, a race of telepaths long thought docile, spoke first. "You called them prey." Valak did not respond. "We were told they were fragile." Another chimed in. "They bled our best units dry in less than a cycle." A third muttered. "Using agricultural tech and adrenaline." Whispers turned into a low growl of unrest. Valak hesitated, then pressed a sigil. "Reclassification proposal. Terra, Apex Class Omega. Vote now." It passed in under 4 seconds. 3 days later, Jenna Rourke stood on the windswept plateau of Nevada, surrounded by rubble and rebuilding. The Vortelex's wreckage had become a monument, not to war, but to warning. A new flag fluttered atop its highest shard, dark blue with the silhouette of Earth's continents surrounded by 13 stars. The seal of the United Planetary Defense Alliance. Behind her, teams of engineers and alien defectors worked side by side. Supply ships arrived daily now, bringing wounded from uprisings across the galaxy. "What's the status on the rebels from Calcerin?" Jenna asked, glancing over a logistics slate. Lieutenant Ramos looked up. "Their strike leaders are inbound. They want training. They heard what you did and, well, they want to do the same." Jenna didn't smile. Not exactly. But something lighter passed through her eyes. "Tell them to bring their own boots. We're not running a charity." Elsewhere, on the shattered moon of Atari Prime, a different fire was starting. Small bands of once subjugated species were rising, emboldened by Earth's defiance. The footage of Jenna choking out an elite hybrid with her bare arms had gone viral on dozens of Black channels. In underground meetings, her face was printed onto banners beside the words, "No one hunts the apex." In one grainy video, a child, a feathered juvenile of the Galactic species, stood before an alien war statue holding a slingshot and whispered, "I want to be like the human." Velkuth watched that same video on a cracked datapad. His prison cell was dim, carved into a hollow asteroid far from any trade routes. The scavengers who had found him had sold him not for ransom, but for embarrassment. His name was gone from the strategist registry. His legacy rewritten, asterisk failure. Misclassification. Collapse, asterisk. He replayed Earth's resistance footage again. Not to learn. Just to understand what he missed. The humans fought without pattern. They fought without fear. They weaponized their own bodies. Even their pain had purpose. It didn't compute. He dropped the pad. At Earth HQ, Jenna reviewed rebel comms on a secure channel. A dozen species wanted alliances. But some messages were darker, threats, warnings, factions calling Earth dangerous. "People don't like power shifts," McAllister said, sipping stale coffee beside her. "Especially when the new power isn't asking permission," Jenna replied. He nodded. "You worried?" "Only about the next mistake." He raised an eyebrow. "Underestimating someone else the way they underestimated us," she added. Later that night, Jenna walked alone across the ridge. Wind pressed against her coat. Her ribs still ached, but she'd gotten used to it. A small shuttle descended silently behind her. Lights off. Minimal noise. Not military. She turned as the ramp lowered. 3 aliens stepped out, 1 insectoid, 1 feline, 1 avian. No weapons. Just tired eyes and worn uniforms. The insectoid spoke first. "We fought for the Empire. We saw what you did. Our worlds, they never had a choice." Jenna folded her arms. "And now? We want to learn." "Why me?" The feline stepped forward. "Because you didn't just fight to survive. You fought to end the cycle." She looked at them, long and hard. Then nodded. "Training starts at 0600. At dawn, the camp came alive with new flags. Earth was no longer alone. Above, orbiting satellites carried new beacon messages outward to every corner of the galaxy. This world does not kneel. Apex confirmed. Alliance open. Tyranny unwelcome. The message repeated in every known dialect, sent in pulses strong enough to cross light years. In an observation tower, Jenna stood overlooking a new drill yard filled with Terrans and aliens sparring together. "Marshal Rourke," a voice said behind her. She turned. A junior officer saluted. "Message received from the Andari frontier. A new Empire fleet paused at their border. Didn't advance. Just turned away." Jenna looked through the tower window toward the stars. "Good. Do we reply?" "No," she said. "They got the message. Final line. They thought we were prey. But you don't study humans without learning, we don't run. We hunt."